Hello and welcome to the One People Show. Well, hello and welcome everyone to the one person roundtable today because Dee is unwell, so it's just me. And which probably means there'll be no geopolitical discussion today because she usually brings that to the table. My only comment on all of that is the world is fucking nuts and getting crazier by the minute. Honestly, I look out there and it's not my reality. It's not the world I chose to live in. It's not the one I want to live in. And I just want to pack up my bat and ball and go home. That's how I feel. It's not even worth commenting on anymore. Because how many times can you say, what the fuck? How many times can you say, this is insane? How many times can you just go, who are these people? Before you start sounding like a broken record. What I do want to kind of put out there is how much I've seen the language change over the last 3 or 4 weeks around what's been put out. And what I see as attempts at shifting our focus, distracting us, or even completely leading us down a garden path to a new reality, it's really interesting to watch. And I've got a couple of videos and I'm actually going to name names and show you exactly what I'm talking about. But just stick a fork in it, yeah. There's one series of videos that are for some reason not in my history. So those of you in the UU room who caught it will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. The woman who says she's a scientist who has just started in the last 3 weeks to put up, I don't know, 16 videos or something. If anyone, Tom usually will be all over it, could send me the link to her YouTube channel or something. That's the one, Randy something. I wanted to show. And I'm actually going to have to ask Donna to come out because to give her interpretation of these videos. I started listening. I think I got about 2 minutes in before my brain just rejected it completely. And I wasn't actually hearing anything that was being said after that point. And energetically, I was just pushing it away. And after 10 minutes, I was like, I can't do this. So I sort of had, Dani, can you listen? And she went through and took the pieces of intel from it because it was clear that there was some. So I'm hoping she'll join us and share her impression. Is she there? Are you there? Miss Sinclair? Yes, you are. Good. Because I'm going to put you on the spot. But what I do have, because I don't have the link to that yet, yeah, exactly. You'll be good. You'll be fine. It's important. So you'll just have to gulp and do it. The other one was this, which looks lovely. I have to say, it looks very lovely. Attention, the Matrix game rules have changed. Important announcement, all souls will now escape. All sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But, again, as I was listening, what she says is the rules have changed, that Source has broken all soul contracts. You won't go through the reincarnation cycle anymore. And she, again, it's the language she's using. This is a construct, this is a game, but the rules have changed. And you are now free to create. All the limitations that have been put on you are now gone and lifted, and you're now free to create the life you want. So the implication and the energy behind it was, if you don't get the kind of life you want from here on in, it's your fault. And, oh, by the way, she has a pendulum that she sells, that she's encoded, that you need to buy from her so that you can ensure that what she's telling you is true, so that you can test it. Again, it's like that 80-20 rule. A little bit of truth, a lot of truth, a lot of intel, a lot of disclosure, and a little bit of co-opting. Just enough. But go and listen to it and see, let me know what you think, because it's Quartz Crystal is the name of the channel. Because it rubbed me the wrong way. That's all I can say. And if anybody does have a link, or I'll try and find this. Randy. There she is. There she is. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Sorry, guys. I did something by mistake. This is the other one, Randy Green. Now, she's only, again, just started putting up videos over the last 3 to 4 weeks. She's done quite a few. Again, using the same language. It's all a construct. It's all a game. However, it's that nice little twist on the New Age meme of there are no victims. It's you created everything, including the Dracos, and you need to open up your soul and your template to allow them in and integrate them. Almost as if we need to save them because this construct is collapsing and we need to bring them all in. I'm not playing that game. I've seen what Dracos do to people. I'm not integrating them. Donna, that's your cue to come out and share a bit more about your impressions of that series of videos. Oh, okay. Hang on. There you go. You're unmuted.
Well, thank you for giving me 10 minutes at 5 in the morning with mucus still coming out my nostril.
You're
trying what that videos were all about. I watched several of her videos actually, and I thought it was okay. Like the energy. I also felt like she had an agenda. You pretty much covered the big points just then. Like she had a reptilian on her table who she gave a story to give it life, and kept talking about how we started the game and we started the opponents, and there are no opponents, and let's not look at the military industrial complex. Let's not look at anything. Governments, politics, it's all us. We did it all. And my biggest red flag, as you already said, was her talking about how there was a dimension that got wiped out before us. And that dimension was the opponents and the Dracos and the reptilians, and there actually is fourth dimensional dead people that are just like us that decided to take on the role of the Dracos and the reptilians. And therefore we need to integrate them into us and into our higher template inside of us, because that's the only way we'll actually go home.
Oh, and if you have a desire to go home, there's something wrong with you, by the way.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that, that if you have a desire to go home or leave this construct, it's because you have entities in you that want to go home. It's not you. But you need to actually have a healing from her. She can help you.
So you can either buy a pendulum off one of the other one, or you can get healing off this one. So this is going to come. Now she actually states that she represents the Draco, I think, at one point, and that she tells us all the things not to look at. Don't look at the military-industrial complex. Don't look at the politics. Don't bother yourself with that stuff. Just focus on integrating these Dracos. That's all you need to do. I mean, seriously, the attempts are coming from, we've talked about factions for years, about how this is all broken up into factions and they're all fighting amongst each other. And it's as if this information, this realization among a lot of people that this is a construct, that there is something outside of this construct, is very threatening to all of them, because they're all starting to try and jump on this bandwagon and steer it into a particular direction. Whether it is the Dracos or the military-industrial complex, or the religious, the angelic, the multi-dimensional, the ET, the whatever. Eyes peeled, guys, because it's coming from everywhere. But it does bring up an interesting question, and one I've seen approached by people in a variety of ways, genuinely seeking, which is asking the really, really basic fundamental question of, is there really an outside? Or is this really all there is? Is this all there is? And that is a terrifying question to ask. One, because many of us have had an innate feeling for, as long as we can remember, that there is an outside of this, that there is something other than. Now, you've also got a lot of people who believe that no, that this is all there is, that Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, Sophia is the be-all and end-all, and that's all there is. But if this is all there is, whether it's a conscious planet being or a construct, either way, if this is all there is, then what are we going to do about it? If this is all there is, John Lamb Lash's Kalika War Party is looking like a viable option for me. Because if this is all there is, we've had New Age light workers working energetically to fix this, actively since the 70s, and look where we are. We've had political protest, and look where we are. We would have to up our game and fight for this like we never have before, on every level. And I think the reason we haven't is because innately we do believe there is something else. But what I've seen, and I've gone through it myself, questioning, doubting, reevaluating, you know, looking at all of my energetic, spiritual experiences and questioning them, looking at all of my belief systems, questioning them, asking myself questions that I never thought I would, or I don't know, I've tried to poke holes in all of my belief structures, all of my thought processes, all of my assumed experiences. And I'm still left with, at the end of the day, no, this is not all there is. There is something else. But for those of you who believe that there isn't, that this is, we have to fix this, how are you going to up the game? Because I can't see that anything we've done so far on the physical level has made all that much difference. We're worse off than we were 20 years ago. We didn't have militarized cops on killing sprees. You had a right to voice your protest and opinion. I have to admit, I get frustrated with, no, we have to fix this. And then navel gaze. This navel gazing ain't going to do it. As far as I can see. This is, to me, this is like the base question that is being looked at right now. Either this is all there is and we up the game and fight for it to the death, if need be, because that's what it would come down to. Or we understand that there is something else, that there is something outside of this, and we do whatever we can to get there. Now, because I'm on my own, there's no way in the world I'm going to be able to talk by myself for 2 hours. So I am going to open up the lines. But I want to hear from you guys. Have you looked at this? Have you asked yourself this question? Where has it led you to? And what's next? And while Donna's the only one I'm muted right now, what about you? Where'd you go? Did she drop again? No, she's there. You're unmuted.
I could start by sharing a few things that Eli, my son, talked about this week.
While you're doing that, and I'm still listening, I'm just going to step away from the camera for a second.
Okay. Those in the UU room would know that every now and then I bring up Eli. He's 6 years old, and he has been diagnosed with autism, but he's not severely autistic. He's vaccine injured. As far as I can, well, that's my personal opinion. There's still a person in there that comes out every now and then that literally blows my mind. This week, I actually asked him, because he has memories of home, a rainbow place. He calls it a rainbow place. And he was talking to me this week, and I was trying to I was playing the game of, well, let's tune into home, and where's home, and trying to get him to connect to that. And then that little light came on that I talk about, and he started explaining to me how it all went wrong, and how there was this bad guy that stretched this earth from here to here, and it works for about 100 years. And then he sliced it all up, and he said he's chop, 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 chop. He sliced it all up until earth became really small. And when he did that, he said we couldn't remember our home anymore after that. So I asked him a bit more about home. What is home? What does it look like? And what is his house like? He goes, oh, well, my house, I can change my house. You know, it was a gold house, but now it's a flower house. And I said, what can you do? And he goes, well, in the houses, you can go to the houses and you can do different things. He said, in one house, you can go and you can fly. And in another house, you can go and you can learn how to shoot lightning. And then he goes, oh, and there's ships there. There's ships there. Now I've continued to question him. So it was really interesting that, like, Eli hasn't listened to any of the stuff I talked to Lisa about. He hasn't been in the rooms. So I found it firstly interesting that he talked about time as if it was stretched out and then sliced up, and earth became small and humans became small, but they were giant once. Interesting that he mentioned 100 years, about 100 years, and he said, but they couldn't do it this time. They couldn't do it. So now we can start to remember. Last night, I haven't got a chance to tell Lisa about this. He comes into the room out of nowhere while I was actually talking to someone, specifically about the process of going home. And he walks in and he says, all right, we've got 2 time machines. One of them will go back in the past. One of them will go into the future. And he said, but they will call each other. And when they call each other, they will come together and it will create a light ship that will take us back to the white place where everything is white.
Say what?
And he said, and that will take us home.
Okay, there will be 2 time machines created, or there are 2 time machines.
When I asked him, are they actual time machines? He said, no, they're people.
They're people. Okay, now I'm confused.
I know.
What did you get out of it? How did you...
Okay, what I'm getting out of it pretty much is that there are certain individuals that have been doing a lot of work that kind of could break the time barrier, get into no time. We're able to go back in the past, go back into the future, and there'll come a point where they all meet in the middle. And
are we the middle? Like, is our now the middle?
Well, I can't answer that, can I? I mean, that now was just a minute ago that you just talked about, didn't it? I don't know. I think so. I could assume so. I have, and as I said, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this, but after a long conversation, I have this idea that possibly Lilu and crew could be could be talking to us from the future, not necessarily from home, trying to give us clues because they already know. Or they could be at home because it's already happened, but we're sort of still here. Now, I'm still trying to get my head around all of that. But it's possible that the Mandela effect is the past. Someone or some people having gone, you know, out of time but gone into the past and played with some things. So to get everybody's attention that this construct is a construct. And some people might have gone into the future and they've starting to send messages back, trying to also get our attention. And it may be us. Now, if I put that together with what Eli was saying about how time was stretched, and some people talk about how past, present, or future, it's all happening in a given moment. All of our cultures are all happening, but there's veils all between them. You know, when he talks about it being chopped up, there may be veils between us and other periods of time, but it's all happening at the same time.
Yeah, right.
So if it's all stretched out, it's not so much past or future, but as we now are stepping into, because of all of that work happening, we can now step into a place of no time. So we're stepping out of the time loop. And all the timelines may be just connecting up and joining up and being able to start to communicate. And the past is communicating through the Mandela effect, because past in those periods they didn't have technology. But of course the future is going to have an even better technology, isn't it? So that may be the approach from the future. But if it's all stretched out and we can talk to ourselves, or we can contact ourselves, or we can leave each other clues, maybe there's stories. Maybe the past is the stories we've left through archaeological history. And you know how suddenly something's discovered and it totally shifts your perspective or view. And you're like, well, where did that come from? Or like even that article that came out, oh, they've gone back to check that Jesus' tomb is still there.
Yeah.
So I'm playing with this idea. I'm certainly not putting this forward as the way that it works, but trying to put all the pieces together, the clues together, things multiple people say in the UU room. I might not always comment or anything, but I certainly sit with it. We've talked about fractals, and Andrea talked about, you know, bringing your stuff home. We talked about that a few weeks earlier. Now, that can only happen if we're all stretched out in time, and there's aspects of ourselves in different parts of time. And as that closes in, we step out of no time, it starts to all, you know, converge into one point. But it's just, that's a possibility for me, especially with Eli talking about someone going rogue and messing it all up. But we're at a point where he's saying, but he could, what last night he said to me, but he's dead now.
He's dead now.
He's dead. Apparently he was taken out because they knew he was bad. So is that why there hasn't been a reset? Is that why we can step into no time? And yeah, if we're talking about time in that context, when Eli's coming, I mean, we're talking about kids that if the 2011 the moon was taken out and they can't recycle and mind wipe the children, you know, the babies anymore. These kids are coming back in with some of their memories.
Hang on, Donna. People are trying to figure out who you're talking about who's dead. So
well, we don't know specifically. We're just sort of, it's Eli saying that someone from home became a bad, ugly guy, and he had a woman as well, and she was helping him, but she wasn't as ugly as him.
But this also coincides with a lot of other people's visions of somebody at a keyboard or somebody at a computer panel or who's kind of messing with all of this. Like it came down to a single individual. People have been having these visions a lot lately. So the idea that somebody went rogue, whether it's from somebody from home who went rogue and took over this construct, or whether it was somebody from the outside who took it over. That's the sort of things we're questioning. But we're seeing a theme. And what seems to happen in waves is that people start seeing similar storylines coming up in waves. Just like when we felt like we hit this base layer in the construct, people started having memories of what we were calling Invasion Day. And there was just this spate of them. And people were being triggered all over the place to have these memories. And now, over the last couple of weeks, there has been this revealing of a male individual at a keyboard or at a computer panel, or a series of them, but working in isolation. And then, for those of you who missed it, it was Donna's son last night came in, and he's also talked about this man who went rogue from home, who said he's now dead. So this is new. He's never said that before. Where'd you go? Did you mute yourself and now I've got to unmute you again? Okay.
Yep, I did. I needed to cough. I didn't want, you know, the people on your show to have to listen to my disgusting morning coughing. Yeah, that is new information, actually. That he's never said that. The other piece of new information was that there was a woman connected to him. And if we go back in history and have a look at some of the stories we have of there was always this male that, you know, went rogue, but behind that is a female, and that was worshipped, and, you know, the pharaoh and Egyptian, yeah, that exactly. The background story to that is very, very interesting in connection to this. Of course, Eli, it's very hard to describe. You would have to be in the moment to understand, but most of the time you can't get him to focus on anything longer than a few seconds. But when he taps into this space, there's someone else there. There's this little kid that's very focused. He's with you. He's very present. And he's got such interesting information that comes out of his mouth, all to do with home. And this has been going on for a very long time. I remember months ago when everyone was talking about all this rainbow stuff. Just before they did, Elo walks into my lounge room when I'm on a computer and comes out of nowhere and goes, "Oh, Mum, do you know it's raining it's raining rainbow bubbles right now?" And I'm like, "What? What?"
But this is a kid who's been talking about going home. And when are we going home, Mum? For a long time.
He started that in probably September, early November, certainly before Lilu and crew came along.
Oh, okay.
And he was telling me how he doesn't understand why we're still here, because don't you know this wall isn't real? He's pointing at my bedroom. Well, this wall isn't real. When are we going to go to the place of light where my house is? We can just knock it down. Don't you know that? We can just knock it down and we can go there. And so, yeah, very interesting. And there's a theme. He's consistent. It's not like it changes all the time. For example, 3 threads this week, 4 different days. It's like a story is being told to me, but it's only in pockets. And weirdly enough, it's happening right in the moment when I'm having conversations or I'm having questions or I'm considering, well, let's look at this, because, you know, I will never settle for a, you know, single. But that's it. I believe that. I'm going down that track. I will always question. Let's look at it. Let's bend it. Let's view it from this angle. Let's view it from that angle. Let's look at it from the up and the down and everything. Like, I will go through that process until something feels right. And if it does, well, hang on to it, but I keep going. You know, just settling on one process for me becomes a very stagnant process. You get stuck doing that. So as I'm questioning and as I'm looking at this and opening the space for it, Eli's popping in with all of this information right at the moment I'm asking that question. And it just makes me go, oh, wow, I didn't even think about it like that, you know? So totally puts a new twist on things, but at the same time, it's consistent. There is a narrative that's happening and it is evolving. And the way that I think, if we're doing this, okay, if aspects of ourselves are doing this over time, and, you know, there's part of us here and we need to bring those home now. That is a theme that's going on, but the work's already been done. And that's what I want to sort of settle on now is a lot of people are saying, well, what have we got to do? We've got to do something. We've got to do something. I think it's already been done. I think that it's almost like grab your popcorn, enjoy the show as it plays out. There are aspects that still need to be completed. There, people do need to call their fractalized, chopped up, sliced up pieces home. But at the same time, it's been quite interesting to see that there is so much evidence pointing to the fact that it's us that did it. And
you mean the work to get out of here?
Sorry, yes.
Has anybody else got kids, little ones who are sharing insights as well and memories? If you do and you want to share, just put your hand up. Because I know that, I've told you guys all before, mine said little bits and pieces when they were in that magic age between 2 and 4. Anyone? No? No one else has got kids? We were sharing? Or even that used to when they were little? So we've got Storch who says, my 3-year-old says he's from far away. Five-year-old says he's actually my father. Friends' kids have conversations with invisible friends. I always thought when I was a kid that I was not from here, that I got left off, abandoned, no way to go home. Someone's kid fights shadows in his dream time, but says to leave the ones with faces alone. And he doesn't remember in the morning. Someone's 14-year-old said that she felt like she was morphing into a dragon the other day. Molly's daughter has very lucid dreams about protecting our family. She has wings and shoots through a beam of light. She's a fighter in her dreams and actually felt a neck snap, which totally grossed her out. My son came from another planet place in a rock. My son has seen spirits. Tracy didn't think that her body was real when she was little. Someone else's son told her that he used to watch her from his spaceship before he was born. Oh man, I love this age. They just remember so much. Apparently, this earth was made from a place of the first earth. My daughter never understood why we need money or to have to work, that it's all there for us, had an imaginary job, home and colleagues, yet no need for money. They worked because they wanted to, stopped talking about these things at around 6. My 2-year-old wants to go home. Crystal's kid wants everything rainbow. My Phoenix was like that too, sparkly rainbow. What's your favourite colour? Rainbow sparkly. Everything was rainbow sparkly. Oh, there's quite a few. I used to call myself an alien as a kid. I could never understand why we did the stuff we do. Couldn't understand why I couldn't walk through the walls because you knew everything was energy. Beth's son lives in a crystal city. Okay, there's so many. My son says he was captured in a white city and forced to jump off a building and fly a ship. I have recalls of living where the architecture is light-emitting rainbow crystal. I think you and I have been from the same place. Interesting. Are you guys, like, I'm sure you are, trying to converse with the kids about these things? And, like, I've seen other people's kids come out with things and their parents just go, oh, it's just your imagination, and I want to hit them, to be honest. Did you stop muting yourself? Nope. Okay. I'll just turn Maria's camera off. Okay. Gina's son would talk about a home place. Lots of dragon dreams lately with her daughter. Okay.
Amazing, actually, that quite a few of these children, I remember a base light place, a white place, that's a rainbow, also rainbow, and crystals and ships. Because Eli talked about the ships as well.
I'm being asked if there's any updates or anything from Lulu and crew, and no, there's been no contact for 5 or 6 days. Don't really know what to make of that. Unless the job's done.
Yeah, we were speculating that it's possible that, you know, if they are us in a future, leaving ourselves clues to push us, you know, just give us a push. And maybe we've actually got to the point where we can now do it for ourselves. You know, it's given us this collective vision, for want of a better word, or goal, or something to shoot for that's bringing us together on how we can go about this. And even if the offshoot of that in some ways has been some of these doings of let's go fuck some shit up. And we're already seeing the physical results of that playing out. And so, yeah, I think it, even if it's just that, and maybe we only needed to give ourselves, because, you know, it could become a huge distraction, and maybe it was. Maybe they've pulled back to say, hey, focus. You know, you've got to do your own work as well. You know, that's the aspect of not being a savior, of not pushing it too far outside of ourselves to rely on others, or to rely on too much on anything outside of ourselves. Because I really think that is a very important aspect to all of this. I mean, we all, you know, it does make us question. It all made us question, but we all have to go within and feel all that out for ourselves and push ourselves from that point. You know, it's opened that doorway. It's opened that process of thinking again. It's linking me back to my childhood. It's linking, as you all just noticed, our children, ourselves. There's lots of us that have had these things, and we let them go. We push them out. We were then co-opted with all of these, you know, ideas and belief systems, and said, no, you've got to go and look at this. Well, how about it just brings us back to where we were once? and we go inside and we have a look at that, because I think we all know somewhere deep inside of ourselves. It's just been buried, hidden. And if anything, I think Lilu and crew were there. If they were us, a future version of what was going on, sort of contacting us to say, hey, what about this? You know, think about this. And yeah, go back inside. Go back inside, see how you feel about that. Look at what you go, well, what's my next step? If this is a possibility, if this is even remotely a chance to be true, what do we do from here, right now? What is our next step?
Do you have an answer for that for yourself? I mean, when I look at the timing of everything, the way it's all played out over the last 2 weeks, 2 months or 6 weeks, and what I kind of speculated on this in the JP interview I did, that it may well be future versions of us. And if that's the case, Lulu did exactly what I would do. Talk to me on my computer. That's where you're going to find me. It was one of the ways I knew there was a unique way for me to know when it was her and when it wasn't. And one of those things were, would I say that? You know, when she gave me a guilt trip twice in the first minute, it was like, that ain't you. You know. It's a okay. So if you asked yourself that question, because we were doing the work.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and Jacqueline, I think, Jacqueline, absolutely. I think that there is a possible more than one home. Some people don't have memories of a beginning of a construct or anything like that. And yes, I do think that every single person has to feel this out for themselves, and has their own next step. But yeah, for me, I definitely have a next focus, next step, next moments for me. They're changing. I mean, not that they're not changing because something comes along and throws me. It's more like every day new information comes forward, you know, from whether it be from Eli, from other sources, someone saying something in the UU, someone asking the right question and making me go, I am just really being very present in every single moment, asking myself, what do I feel I have to do now, today, in this moment? And being willing to be flexible with that, being willing to shift with it, because one of the things that is really important to understand is that we have very fixed scripts when it comes to these controllers and the factions, and that they've only got a limited amount of scripts to throw at us. And I think David put a post in the UU room last night, a cartoon, which was hilarious, of how we have this ability. We are so much more than what we think we are, and how we can flip the script. We have the ability to create and flip the script, and they need, for their magic, I don't know, their magic, the way that it works, they need years to set things up. So when we're spontaneous and we're in the moment and we flip our own script constantly, they can't keep up with us. They don't know. They don't have the power to keep up with us. So my focus at the moment is flipping the script. And probably, actually, when I think about it, it's probably been that way for quite a while.
Yeah, it has. David, you're unmuted if you wanted to come out.
Yeah, that would be great. How are you doing?
I'm good, love. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. recovering after quite some purging after the past couple of days.
Wow.
Yeah, I came in at about minute 15, so I didn't hear the first 15 minutes of the show. But that spontaneous thing seems to be the something, for lack of better words, in our favor. You know, I did that one cartoon yesterday with someone was changing the background and changing Daffy Duck and all like that, and so it was really, really funny. The episode is called Amok Duck. You can find it within the posting that I did. So if you want to go and look at the room, you can. I post also about a week ago. I posted another one, and it was more about how to play with the magic part. And it's Bugs Bunny. He goes into this vampire's castle. Bugs finds a book on magic, and he's going, oh, we've got these two words, abracadabra and hocus pocus. Well, what if you change the words to, hocus cadabra or abracapocus? And I know for myself, in all the journeys that I've been scrolling through the constructs, the controllers or whoever is there have always offered me a couple different options when I was getting to like a critical point of stepping into integrate into their systems. And consistently, one of the things I always said was, I have another idea, which has worked really, really well. Another tool that's worked really, really well, and I played with this when I came across the John Lash information about the Archons, and that connects up with the Wedico virus. I forget the name of the guy who put that together. And there's some other very, very similar concepts. They tell a little bit different story, but yes, thank you, Paul Levy. But if you put them together, it's basically they operate in the same way. And one of the things that in playing with that I came up with that was really, really effective was that if I say it doesn't matter if it's the controllers, it doesn't matter if it's the Archons, the Wedico, inorganic beings from the Castaneda tradition or whatever. If I say to that being, I see you, and it doesn't respond, its magic, its energy relies on it being hidden and no one seeing it for what it is. And therefore, it's like, I know it's an inorganic being, or however you want to phrase that. If the response comes back, I see you also, then I know I'm dealing with another sentient being, for lack of better words.
Straight out of Avatar once again.
Bingo.
So you guys, the three of us had a chat yesterday that I ended up having to leave, but I know you guys carried on. Is there anything that came out of that chat that you can share or elaborate on?
Well, we definitely talked a lot and refined some more about a lot of the postings that I've been doing. In the UU room, and the theme of them is really a couple fold. I'm just running with a couple simple ideas, and I'm developing on the fly and tossing them out there and seeing what people's responses are, where they go with them, and see what comes out as a collective level. One of them is the concept of paradox. Now, in our experience in this construct, and especially this day and age in this linear time, we've lost touch with paradox. Basically, paradox is that you have like knowledge about something, book knowledge, intellectual knowledge, okay? And then you have your assumptions about that. And most people seem to be doing, or the way the construct is having people play with this, is that they combine those two and they think that that's real. That's not real. Real is paradox, and that's when you go through the experience of something and gain the wisdom and understanding of it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one of them. The other is that I've been sitting with, okay, if I were to look at the place where we are right now, okay, and on the one hand, I think on your posting that you did, I think you're absolutely right that there is nothing to do. We've gotten to the place where it's all collapsing and inflow, and it's happening of its own accord. We don't have to get it. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to get in our way. We don't have to try. Andrea also, and I am in absolute agreement with that. Andrea posted something about, well, we might need to do some cleanup. We might have to do a little correction, much like a watch that has like 1 or 2 gears that are off. We either fix the gears or we correct them, and that helps the mechanism of the clock work. I'm also in agreement with that. So I'm kind of taking this middle ground of, on the one hand, we don't have to do anything. However, on the other hand, partly to keep ourselves busy and to help keep ourselves participating in the here and now, how about if we try to see the construct in a raw form for the way it is? And if we can do that, we can start to discern which pieces are organic, part of the original construct, home base, and which pieces were co-opted. And if we can start to get a feel for that, then we can start to connect with which pieces are part of home base, and that starts to open up the space where we can start connecting with home base, and we can start moving and connecting with that. So I've really been looking at it from that side.
Let me explain what I meant by that post.
Okay.
Specifically. So there was a video that Donna, Jenny, and I put out about a month ago,
Right.
Talking about everything coming home to roost, so to speak, everything coming back and coming home. And that's the part that I feel like we don't need to do anything about. That's the part that feels like it's happening anyway, of its own accord. So whether both the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So aspects of ourselves, fractals of ourselves, bits and pieces of us that are on different timelines or whatever, however that looks, as well as the thought forms we've created, including those that have become life forms within, with nefarious intent. That's what I feel like is coming home, and that we don't have to do anything about.
Right.
We do have to be open to it. And
absolutely. Allow it.
We could allow it, and if you could speed the process up by actually opening your space, as Andrea was pointing to, you open your space up and you ask for it. You literally ask for those parts of you to come back home, which could speed it up. It's not everybody's done that work. Some of us have done that work, and been doing that work for a long time, haven't even considered it. And maybe I've noticed even a few people going, oh, there's something in my house that's going to attack me, it's evil, and all that sort of stuff. And they've not quite got the concept yet that this is probably something you created, something that's a part of you, could be a part of who you are. It could be a thought form that you created. And as I think I mentioned in that video, there's an aspect where some of these thought forms are co-created. So just being careful as well and discerning as to if that's happening, only call back that you own, and be very specific in your intention that you're actually going to only welcome in anything that is yours and nothing more. Don't take on anything else that you don't need to take.
Exactly.
That just comes up.
Yeah, I think there's a real fine line in here, because on the one hand, we created the original construct, home base, to have experiences. On the other hand, we didn't co-opt this. Something else co-opted this, and we got involved in it for whatever reason. I don't think we'll ever quite really know, and we'll just be able to make really good guesses along the way as we're figuring out that, and we're not going to find out until we get home, you know, or outside of construct, however that's going to play out. There's a third part in this, and I think this is really the catch for a lot of people, is that we may not have created this co-opting, but we've all participated in it. And I think that's the part where we have to really let go and connect with those parts where it's like, okay, this is the part where I participated in this, good, bad, indifferent, knowingly or unknowingly, and let go and integrate that part and really discern between that and what's the co-opting that you were born into, and that's the world you assumed was real.
Someone just asked the question, so did that Randy woman have it right in the end? And for me, no. What she's asking you to do is take on stuff that isn't yours, that is not your creation. To allow somebody to come in and kind of piggyback on you, or
almost the reverse version of HK. You know, where HK talks about, you know, pulling the Dracos out. She's saying, no, we've got to put them back in. We've got to integrate these Dracos and these reptilians. And I completely agree with David, and I think most people know or feel, if I said to you, you're to blame for everything here. You created it. A lot of people are going to be flaring up and say, well, hell no, did I not? And that's the aspect of the co-opting. Some process of the co-opting was in allowing, you know, these Draco reptilian interferences to come on in and mess with a whole lot of stuff. Part of what I think David's pointing to is a few base things, which is time, belief, and what was the other thing?
Well, those are the only two that I've really come up with, like, a workable idea. You know, I don't have any specific idea any more than anyone else here, and so I'm just kind of running with these ideas, trying to make them at least congruable, and so that I can also communicate them, so other people can get the idea and run with it or discount it or whatever. But the only two aspects of what was co-belief.
There's something else that we've been kind of discussing and playing with, which is, if we've been dropping down through the layers, because we talked about this even before the whole Lily thing, right? And every time we get to the next, this new layer gets revealed, that we start to see technology that we haven't seen before. Yeah, and I was questioning the whole quantum computer thing, because for me, it went from, we're on the verge of these breakthroughs to there's 20 of these things fully functioning around the planet in about 6 months. Now, if it's true that we are in this base layer and that we're kind of going backwards through events, that we may well be in the environment right here, right now, where the initial co-opting began, or invasion began, or whatever. Now, if that's the case, what would the technology that was used to pull that off, and the events, if we're going to kind of relive those, at least at a frequency or energetic level, how would they play out now? Right? We may or may not, based on some of the stuff that's been going on in the last 24 hours with UFOs being seen everywhere apparently, and Turkey's covered in them. Would it play out the way it did the first time, with a whole bunch of UFOs, you know, invasion shit? Or would it play out differently with the same energetic, if you know what I mean. Like the energy of it has to play out, but what would it actually look like? Because we've even looked at the whole Lulu thing as, is that a level of technology that we haven't seen before? Right? Is that part of the co-opting? I don't know if anyone's got any, because I haven't looked deeply into all of these so-called apparent UFO sightings that have happened. I just know they've happened. But it's been worldwide from what I can tell. That a huge number of people in Turkey saw a huge number of ships. Yeah, I don't do Stephen Greer as well, by the way. Am I making myself clear? Like, is this understood? Like, the invasion, the energy of invasion, the energy of co-opting. If we're going to replay that out, because we're moving backwards through these events, what could that look like? Does that make sense? Yes? Yes? Okay. Has anyone given that any thought?
No, I'm not asking him in for a cup of tea either.
Yes, I thought yeah, that's very possible, Larry, that it's all just government ships trying to create a huge distraction or play out the alien invasion meme or whatever. David, have you got any thoughts on how this could play out? If you were going to play out the energy of it? Because it's not necessarily going to play out the way it did the first time.
Yeah, I had to mute himself, so you might have to unmute him.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that was the whole piece that I've been playing with. That is what I've been talking about. Where would the co-opting happen? So let me give you a brief description on at least what I'm seeing. Is that we have home base, and whoever came in and did home base, they could see the source and or hard codes. I don't know if they're separate or the same. However, whoever is doing that did not have the capacity to see some elements in the source or hard code. So they took a copy of that source and hard code. That's their base for this co-opting. And then they started putting other layers of coding, other layers of construct, and starting to build their own co-opted construct. So they're not able to do the foundation source codes or hard codes. However, the layer, if I look and feel into that, the layer where all this co-opting happened is what I'm calling the navigation tools, which for us would be things like belief and time. Let me give you an example. Like for belief seems as a navigation tool that the foundation of belief is that you don't know. And if you use that as a navigation tool, it works really, really well because it opens up for creativity, inspiration. It inspires you to go venture, to discover, and all like that. That's great stuff. However, if you do some slight shifting so that the foundation of your life is in something like belief, all of a sudden you're living a life that's set on I don't know. And all of a sudden you can connect things like survival mechanisms. You're going to be in this self looping system you'll never evolve. You'll never go anywhere. You're like chasing your tail forever. I don't know if that answers your question.
The Anunnaki have come up a bit in the chat a couple of times. And the whole Citrine Nibiru Anunnaki kind of storyline has never sat with me. But I have played with the idea that what if the Anunnaki were the original us, the giants, that it's us. But they have to co-opt that story. I mean, we had the No Forest video that went around and really touched a lot of people. And the whole silicon-based, that this construct was originally silicon crystalline based, including us. There's another video, which I can just put you the link to. It's called Mud Fossils Prove with DNA Giants were our ancestors. And this one, I'll just share screen for a second. These rocks that you're seeing have all been DNA tested, and they are human DNA. They are body parts. Okay. They've gone through all of the testing that all of your top universities and whatever require, from scanning to X-rays and DNA tests and everything else. And the guy's got fingers, proven to be fingers, that are anything from, like, say, that top knuckle being that big, to fingers that he has to hold in his both hands. Anything that would make a person 12 feet tall to 200 feet tall. Adds to that No Trees video. There was everything was silicon at one point here.
Well, no, there was a bit of carbon aspect to it, but it was
carbon, but it was predominantly silicon, right? Or crystalline. If we go back to code, it wasn't binary, ones and zeros, it was something else. There's that great picture that we shared about the steps in Peru it's a stairway that is at least three people high, each step.
And I do know someone's argument for that was why the place is so small. But something we have known is that through history, they knock everything down and then they rebuild. And they rebuild on what was already there, a foundation of what was there. And I want to bring in, again, remind everyone what Eli was saying. One of the things, and I've just got triggered again for a little bit more, when he talked about the earth being sliced up, he said once everything, the whole earth was gigantic. It was huge. And when he sliced it up, he put lines in it, and now you have lots of little earths.
Well, that goes back to, you could say that goes back to the whole infinite plane. It was all one at one point, and it's been separated, or this part has been isolated. That all works with that theory too.
I did a little tracing back since the Tolkien information came up. I did a little tracing back into the Tolkien cosmology, and I'll do a posting today on this. It's pretty amazing, and it matches up a lot with what we're talking about. And they talk about that Middle Earth, and there's other types of similar constructs like Middle Earth. That Middle Earth originally was this big, vast, like flat plane, and at some point it became a sphere.
So that's what, Mayan?
No, Tolkien from the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, that Tolkien. I thought you meant the Zolkin, the Zolkin as in the Mayan cosmology. Okay.
It does link in with the honeycomb earth, and the way that Eli described it being chopped up with lines into all of it, and it all has to come back. But at the end of the day, the original was gigantic. It was huge. We were giants. He says the person that designed this place was a giant. And then he talked about the bad guy that came in and chopped it all up. And he said, as he chopped it up, we all started to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink till we became a tiny little place here. And he did indicate that there were other versions of that. And oh my goodness, that's right. He said he started at the top and then went to the left and then went to this side and then went to the bottom. And I said, so it's a cube? And he said, yes. And he put lots of lines in the cube. And him putting the lines in the cube is what chopped it all up. Do you remember when I shared you that picture? I had lines all over the cube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hang on. I'm trying to imagine. I'm trying to visualize this. So we've got
He said the construct is far, 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 far away from home. And there's real planets there. But the construct is a cube. It was describing a cube. And it's far, far away from home. It's not in the same place. And in this cube, it was all just one gigantic earth, one gigantic place where there were giants. But when this bad guy came along, he sliced it all up, putting lines in the cube. And as he put lines in the cube, every time he put a line in the cube, we got chopped and we got sliced and we got cut down and we became smaller.
So he's taken one huge cube and turned it into like a Rubik's Cube.
Yes. And he said, and to go home, they all have to come back together, and then we go back to the white place, the place of light, within the construct. And from there, we can go home.
So every time a line is cut into the cube, everything shrinks in order to fit inside the piece that they're now in, and then it just gets cut up smaller and smaller. It's diced and turned into a Rubik's.
Yeah. And if you slice a Rubik's Cube a certain way, you would probably end up with honeycomb at the end of the day.
Okay, mind blown.
I know. This kid blows my mind constantly, I'm telling you. And David, he actually come in while I was talking to David with this thing he said, and I think David saw me afterwards for at least 20 minutes going, holy crap.
Yeah, Donna asked him how to fix it.
Well, he's already said we're in the process of it. He said that they can't reset it because he said the guy was resetting it, so it was about 100 years, and he said he can't do it anymore. He's been taken out. He has been killed, and we are heading there. We are actually doing that, and we're in the process of doing it. He's not worried at all. He's just like, yeah, might take a while. But he also said that a heart code has to be uploaded. That's another thing he said yesterday. He said, oh, don't you know that the first heart got all destroyed and cracked open because of all the earthquakes? And he said, and the new heart code has to be uploaded, and that will take weeks and weeks and days and days.
Weeks and weeks and days and days. That's not long. Okay, so where does this heart code come from, and how do we get it uploaded?
a very interesting aspect, I must say. So we talk about a heart code that already got uploaded, a living code, but it has to go through all the hearts of everybody here. But funnily enough, it's he said the heart code will be uploaded tomorrow, in the next day or two. But that is actually, I don't want to put a certain person on the spot right now, but a certain person that is doing some work is talking about having uploading a heart code to the crystals that have been collected.
This is true.
And we talk about doing things out of sync, out of time, in no time, where we don't do things in order, in tick-tock time. We navigate time by stepping out of time and doing things in a different order so that the controllers or the mechanisms cannot stop us. I'm seeing the light going on, Lisa, and I'm cracking up. You're getting it now, aren't you?
So I have an idea here. I was playing with. I've been doing some of the collecting of these crystals, and I was playing with one of them this morning. You know, and just like running light from it, you know, through it. And one of the things that happened was there was this like fractal pattern that popped out of it. And what I'm wondering is if the crystals are actually complete. However, if there was a fractal or fracture program that was embedded in them, so it appears like they're all separate and spread out. That would be like the same thing of taking a holographic image, chopping it up into a bunch of little pieces, and then putting it all together. All the different pieces are going to be copies of the original. They don't know that they're all connected with the whole. Does that make any sense?
It does. When you think about what Eli said, when he said the heart, which became a stone, got cracked up because of all of the earthquakes and got broken up. Now, he would not be able to come up with the word fractal because he's too young, but he's talking about a cracking up of this particular heart code, and he's talking about a stone. He's talking about a heart that became a rock that got fractalized. They got cracked up because of all the earthquakes. Don't you know that, Mum?
Interesting. And I'm wondering, my initial thought is I'm wondering if that earthquake that Eli is referring to is an out of resonance or out of harmony program. Because a program like that going into something like a crystal would not be in resonance with the origin of the crystal.
Sorry, my brain's still just...
Yes, and the movie Dark Crystal has come up quite a bit.
So what about... I don't know. It feels like right now it feels like there's a job to do for everybody. So there's this, I think I talked about it last week, like there's this sensation of there's this membrane around it. Like the atmosphere itself is a thick membrane. I got up, I don't know how many days ago, to leave the house. I went for a walk, and I had to ring Donna because I was like, this is seriously weird. And I rang her and I just said, I'm walking through water. I felt like I was walking through a pool, and I actually had to look at myself in a shop window at one point to ensure that I was walking forward and not backward. because it was almost like there was current. I was trying to walk against the current as well. And even though I knew my legs were going forward, it felt like I was going backwards. It was the weirdest feeling. And this, I can see it. I can actually see it with my mind's eye, this membrane. And it's like a clear gel, but it's got code running through it. The code is actually moving and running through it. Okay, I'm not the only one by the looks of things.
And not only that, my eldest, he's very good with energy. Not that he ever pays attention that much because he'd rather play computer games, but I asked him, have you noticed any changes lately, like energetically? Has anything changed? So he sort of felt it out for a moment and goes, well, it feels really dense, but I don't know why I'm saying that. And what you're talking about is a density of energy that you're walking through. And weeks before that, you remember you rang me on the phone because, you know, it was just on the roadway. The roadway was like water. And so I said, oh, so the water's risen to your legs now. You know, the density seems to be coming up, you know, a lot, this feeling of density. And I think it's also making us feel tired, and it's harder and harder to get moving. It's harder and harder to produce like light energy, but that's actually good because in a way that it's when you're in an expansive process of like going further and further away from home, it becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. But as you start to return back, it becomes denser and denser and denser. More compact.
It does feel like there is an interaction with this membrane that has to take place. So whether it's break it down, whether it's infuse it with heart code, I'm not sure yet, but there is an interaction that needs to take place with it. I just don't know what it is yet. Yes, it's like jelly, like amniotic fluid, and yet it's alive. I can feel it's alive because it's filled with what I call the living code. It's a living code.
Is it possible it's what was used to create the slices?
The membrane between the slices. Oh.
Ooh.
Oh. I don't know. I mean, that's entirely possible.
That's good.
Someone said pour Coke on it because that shit dissolves anything. That's true. It's about the only thing I would use it for. Let me tell you so.
Teresa is busting her chops. She's been asking over and over again if she could have something to say.
Oh, sorry, I'm not ignoring you, love. I just didn't see it. Where are you? You're unmuted? Teresa, you're unmuted. No? Wrong Teresa, maybe? There's only one in here. Was it definitely?
Maybe went and got a coffee while she was like, oh, there she is.
Oh.
Did she slip home?
No, there's. I'm not seeing you in the list to unmute though. Hang on. That's weird. Where is it? You're actually not showing up under the same name. Try that. Are you unmuted? Oh, let me do something else. Hang on. All right, you unmute yourself. I've allowed you to unmute yourself. See if that works.
I just unmuted myself.
Cool.
I forgot. No, I'm just kidding. I just had to say that. I've given myself a bit of a headache trying so hard to hold on to my thought. Well, it wasn't really a thought. It was sort of a, Lisa, back when you were talking about the layers that we're going backwards through. This is when, and the whole time after thinking about this, and this stuff is so wonderfully interesting, but here's what happened inside of me when you were talking about getting down to that place where we're going backward from where the invasion may have happened. It occurred to me, if we've been asleep and we're awake now, aren't we going to be in a whole different place here than we were when we came? Because going into it, we fell asleep, but now we're awake. So if we come to this layer that we're at now, and there were two more words that occurred to me while we're thinking about this. Thank God for everyone in here, because there is a wealth of knowledge, and we all know the difference between knowledge and wisdom. And my heart was wanting to say, where does wisdom come from? It doesn't come from our head. No. It just doesn't. So all of these things that we're discussing here that are so mind-blowing and so phenomenal, because we're all like putting it all together here, and it's just crazy mind-blowing, but at the same time, the keep it simple, silly scenario, it may not be any more difficult than the fact that we are now aware in a way that we weren't, coming into this and getting layers and layers and layers upon us, from whatever it all is. We can discuss the fact of the way everything has occurred over a millennium, if this is all a construct and we've created it all, or whether we created the good, the bad, the ugly. Does it really all, the bottom line is, wow, here we are. I mean, maybe it is just as simple as us all coming together in an intention, for getting through this final little membrane. It's our heart codes connecting to it, being aware of it. I mean, I don't know. It's just, like I said, it was an inspired feeling that I got when I was listening to you talking about going back through the layers. We're seeing the ships, we're seeing the people are seeing bits and pieces of home, we're experiencing things, dreams, trying to figure it all out. And maybe it's more simple than that, because we've created all of this, obviously, and we could talk about all of it till the cows come home, because there's never ending. I mean, we've created such a, what a playground we've created here, which should also cheapest, everyone understanding how absolutely beautifully majestic and wonderful we all are. Look at what we've done. I mean, my goodness, do we really wrap our minds around this and our hearts around what we've done here? It's just amazing. It's beyond amazing. I mean, you know, we can't even put it all into the books. Good Lord, we haven't even seen the Vatican. Could you imagine that? I mean, I just wanted to mention that coming back down to where we are now may be as simple as our heart codes connecting with us. That's really all I wanted to say, and maybe everybody can go from there and see if that has any merit. Thank you. Thank you. Love to all.
Thank you. I need a bathroom break. So, I'll be back. Does anybody have anything to say? Well, I can't. I've been holding it for half an hour. I've got to go.
We got Earl and John with their hand up. Let's bring Earl on, and you can go do your thing.
Thank you.
Okay, Earl, you're up.
Hi guys. I've been thinking about the construct myself, but I've been getting where I've been hearing, like, I've heard like two voices in the past couple of weeks. One was of a young female saying "daddy." Now I've heard this voice say "daddy" before. It was in a younger voice. Then there was this other voice as of yesterday or the day before saying, "hey." So I'm wondering if they're my family or, you know, it's just weird.
What did I miss?
Oh, I was just saying how within the past like 7 weeks I've been hearing like voices, like one female voice saying "daddy," and I've heard that before like 5 years ago with a younger, much more younger female voice, but it felt like the same voice that said "daddy" said a week or so ago.
And does this feel like it's internal, coming from within you, or is it feeling like it's external?
It's not in me. It feels it feels like it is a part of me, but it's like it's not like someone saying something like, you know, it I don't know, I just feel connected to it. Like I don't have any kids right now, like here, you know. I never got around to that. But it's weird. Plus the whole time speeding up the past 2 weeks. It's it's like, whoa, wait a minute, holy crap, it's Friday already? I thought it was like all Friday. I'm like, didn't I just go through this?
Hey, holy crap, it's the 29th of November and not, you know, March.
It's like I'm worried one day I'm gonna have my birthday. Then I'm gonna wake up the next day and it's September 17th, a year later. But it's weird. It's a weird ride that we are on. It's like nothing that we've ever seen before. Like people say, well, as you get older, time feels like, you know, it's speeding up. I don't think they meant like this, Lisa. I don't think they meant like a week just go by. I remember as a kid just being in school and where a day
Forever.
it just felt like it dragged on, and I couldn't wait to get home to be like, okay, I can watch afternoon cartoons on TV, and it's like, man, nowadays you don't get that anymore. Where you do, but they have like Cartoon Network, Teletoon, and all that. Well, Teletoon is like our Cartoon Network over here in Canada. But I like
Well, I know it's not just us looking back at, looking back at a childhood, or the time speeds up as you get older, because even kids are talking about, my two were talking about how, our school terms here go for 10 weeks. And, they'd be in week 7 or 8 of the term and they go, it's going on so fast, it feels like week 2. And I know that when I was a kid, the school year went forever. And they're talking from the time they were 7 and 8 about how fast the years are going by. It's not just
exactly the same.
Sorry?
My 2 boys are exactly the same, and not just that. I've also considered the eating and sleeping aspect. So you know how, and I know everyone's going to relate to this, how you can go for what feels like a couple of days where you don't want to eat a thing, and then suddenly you're ravenously hungry. Or you go for a couple of nights where you can't sleep at all, and then suddenly you're sleeping for what feels like, well, according to TikTok time, 18 hours straight. Or you may not sleep for 18 hours. So you certainly wake up feeling like you haven't slept. And if we look at time as a construct, as part of the co-opting, then as we move out of time, we actually slow down. And when we slow down and the TikTok time is still going at its normal rate, then if when we're not wanting to eat, could be the periods of time which would normally be would have been between breakfast and lunch. But now it's breakfast and lunch is taking 2 days for us personally. So the TikTok time of the construct is still going at its normal pace, but we're slowing down because we're moving out of it. We're not buying into the whole time. We're seeing it for what it is. When David pointed out, just see it for what it is. Look at it, because once you begin to just see it, you move away from it. You go, oh, okay. And when we're moving into no time for us is slowing down, but TikTok time's speeding up. So even my children, like yesterday afternoon, they'd normally come home a couple of years ago. You couldn't get them off the computer. They were both passed out yesterday for hours. They came home and they're crashing. They're talking about, number one, how time is just, where the hell is it going? But at the same time, they're also talking about the density. They're talking about their appetites are weird. And they're all feeling something changing. And that's not something we're talking teen boys here. They don't do that, okay? They don't care about this sort of stuff normally. They're just doing their thing.
Yeah.
So something is definitely shifting.
Like for the past several weeks, I've learned that I function better at night. Like I'm more awake at night than I'm in the day. The day I'll be so tired, but at night, like I function better. Like I don't know how, I don't know why, but I function better being up all night. Like I don't know, is it about something about the sun or I don't know, but I function better. Like mentally, I'm more clear. I'm more.
What's that noise?
I think John Jensen is a squirrel scratching his ears.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, this story.
Sorry, Gina's unmuted, and so is John Jensen.
Am I unmuted on purpose?
Well, you had your hand up, so yeah.
Well, it was just it was just regarding the voices. I had a experience quite some time ago where I was kind of going through my period where I was looking for meaning and looking into all these religions and finding all of them shams, and was very distraught. Had dropped my son off in Berkeley at his dad's house and was driving back and was just kind of crying to the heavens, for lack of a better term, you know, what's it all about? What's it mean? When am I going to know what my purpose is? Why am I even here? You know, all of those things, and literally sobbing for the 40-minute drive back. When I walked into my house, I was walking back to put my purse in my bedroom, and there was a little area that was a bathroom to the right, my bedroom and to forward, and my son's room to the left. And there was no one else home. It was a little duplex. And this voice said, a male voice, very clearly, very loudly, "Wait." And it felt like it was in answer to all the questions that I was asking. And I could actually, it wasn't in my head. It felt like they were right up next to me and set it into my ear to the point where I could feel the vibration of the sound.
Uh-huh.
I freaked and I started looking everywhere, under everything. Someone's got to be in here. Someone's got to be. It was too real. It was too clear. And of course, I never did find anything. And I just sat and thought about it for a long time. And the only thing I ever came up with was that it was telling me that the questions that I was asking would be answered in time, just to wait, not to be pushing so hard. And anyway, I just wanted to share that in relation to, I know people have voices. I've had voice to skull things since then, which were completely different and felt different, felt intrusive. This didn't feel intrusive. It felt very loving and, I don't know, fatherly almost, helpful. It was a very different experience. And I haven't had it since then. But anyway, that's it. I just thought I would.
What year was that?
Excuse, what year was that? It was 1990.
Oh, okay. Thank you. We've got. What happened? John.
People have brought up birds as well in the. People are bringing up the birds in chat, and I have noticed in the year in people talking about why are the birds so silent, or why are they suddenly sparking up in the middle of the night. And then if you connect that with the fake sun, now if the actual construct itself, the Earth, including us, are all slowing down, if that is shifting, it would also explain two suns. It would explain why there's a fake sun. And so the birds aren't going to be singing according to the fake sun schedule of the tick-tock time. They're going to be singing and awake and active according to the natural processes of the construct tied to Earth. So that could also explain some of the weird, unusual bird activity because of the connection they have.
I've been around roosters a fair bit in the last 2 years. And those guys do not shut up day or night. I mean, that whole thing of, you know, the alarm clock in the morning when there's no.
No, seriously, they're like the mosquitoes. They don't belong. No, I'm kidding.
All right,
Roosters are terrible.
I'm going to unmute John Jensen. John, did you want to share something?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good. I can't hear myself. So, at any rate, years ago, there was a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. I don't know whether many people have read it. It's a very small book. I think it's still in print, but I'm not sure. And one of the principal tenets of it was there was nothing you need to do in order to become enlightened. In other words, the the gotcha or the catch in that is that you need to do something. In other words, the insistence that there is something that has to be done in order to get to someplace else.
Yep.
That has the sort of built-in idea that there's a lack or a problem or something is wrong and that you need to fix it in order to get to where you need to be. And so there's a mental trip or a mental gotcha built into that. And that ties into a feeling I've had my entire life. And the way I term it, the way words I use is I call it the fix is in. And by that I mean there's a bunch of us here that are here to not only experience this transition, but to help or to assist or to aid or do our thing in a way that aids this whole big process of getting from where we have been going to where we're supposed to be going or where we would prefer to be going. And so this fix is it feels like a fundamental, essential, and sort of like foundational layer shift that we are part of, and that we can, quote, I'm not sure if this is the right word, but rely upon, but it is built in. It's not added on. And so this need that we have to do something is part of the trap that there is something to fix. And by that I mean, if we're true to our nature, if we do what we are and be and all of that sort of stuff, the composite of all of us that are actively, and some people not even actively, just sort of in the background doing what we do, this will lead us or head us in the direction that we're going. I mean, obviously we're seeing changes, we're seeing improvements, we're seeing, the old stuff fall apart, to be replaced hopefully by our creative endeavors, but sort of steered, or not steered or guided, but along the lines of what's in our hearts, what's in and of us, so that we can undo all of this fuckedness, basically. And that's why we're here, is to aid and assist in bringing about the fixes in. In other words, these words are our participation based on what and who we are, not based on, well, this person said this and this person said that, and we're supposed to do this over there, and all these other opinions. It's not just distraction, but it's misdirection. Every individual will do what they need to do based on what and who they are, and the composite is what the fix is. We're heading in that direction, and it doesn't seem like any one of us can missteer it or pull it off track or whatever, but it's the composite collective emphasis and desire, the emotional content, the need for the need for having to go out and twiddle with the knobs. It's by your mere presence that you are twiddling with the proper knobs, maybe even unconsciously or whatever, in the background during sleep. All of those factors enter into it. But the idea is that we don't have to. We will, because it's part of what we do. But the compulsion to have to, the need to, I think, is part of the trip, part of the what's getting in our way. It's like when people get so wound up with a construct or an idea, or this is wrong, we got to fix this. They get that mind thing going, and they just get all wound up, and it's away from the natural flow of things. I think that's about enough I need to say on that. So it's just an idea to throw out there and consider. It's like I say, it's always struck me as something of like I say, the fix is in. We do what we do because it's what and who we are, and we don't have to fix things. They will be fixed. They will happen as a natural consequence of who we are.
There is a sense.
Subtle, but
there is a sense, and I know exactly what you're saying because I've seen it play out with myself. So there's not this desire to do something for the sake of doing something. It's simply doing what I feel pulled to or called to, and that's it. And there's this sense of almost walking a path I've already laid for myself. I just have to turn up. I just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other and walk the path that I've already laid out. And when it gets to a point where there is something for me specifically to do, I feel that and I do it. But doing something for the sake of doing it, or doing something because my mind is saying that there's this problem over there that needs to be fixed, I can't. If I'm not feeling that pull to participate or be involved or anything, then I don't force it.
There's even those moments that of where you're doing something. You don't know that you're doing it. You're not aware of what you're doing. You may understand later after it's done. You might get an upload of, oh, so that's what I was doing. But you weren't consciously aware of what you were doing at the time until later. And sometimes you never are aware. That information's never revealed. And then we have the alternative of, right, that's it. We've got to save these animals. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. We've got to pray a certain way. We've got to sit a certain way. We've got to look at the sun a certain way. It's this program. And I think that's what John's talking about, that program of feeling like you've got to do it and take control of it, when we're pointing to being fluid and being in the moment and going, and sometimes yourself not
follow the promptings.
Yeah, and sometimes you do have to be consciously aware and actively involved in something. But that's fluid. It's not the same thing. Some people dedicate their entire lives to one particular thing and never shift from it, and they end up miserable and breaking down and having all sorts of problems later in life, and sometimes it's only a month or two when they're breaking down and going, But, it really is something about being fluid. It is something innate within us that we are knowing without knowing. And there's also the aspect of, there is technology that hacks us and can read our thoughts and do all of that sort of stuff. So a lot of the doings that have happened that we are not aware of have to happen that way because it's no information for us. If there's no information in us what we're doing, then there's no information for those controllers and those mechanisms and control mechanisms in place. So it is all, but innately we do know it. We get that sense, and I think that's what John's pointing to.
In part, there's another aspect that you just raised, which triggered a thought in me, in that we may be actually limiting access to certain awareness on purpose for ourselves, so that we don't trip ourselves up, get too involved. Oh, this is the right way. This is the right way. In other words, we kind of leave ourselves in the dark a little bit, so that basically we do what we're supposed to do because we're not being. There's the compulsion, the insistence that this be done this way, is reduced in intensity, and the emotional impact is not quite as overpowering for the individual. Because if we were to fully understand the magnitude and the scope and the reach of some of what we do, the ego might get stroked big time, for one. But
we could break down and go, put me in the mental asylum.
Exactly. And on top of that, there's the aspect that sometimes it's better that we don't know, because there is so much information, so much detail, so much interaction between us that it would potentially be overpowering, and it would disable us. It would keep us from being able to, well, is this the right way or is this the right way? I mean, my heart says go there, but when I went there before it was this, and so maybe I should modify. So you get all these questions, all of this background chatter going on.
The other layer of keeping ourselves in the dark too is because I actually do believe that if it's part of our consciousness, it can be in fact read. So we don't hold it in our consciousness a lot of the time, so that that information cannot be gleaned by others.
Excellent.
I have an idea I want to play off of what John's saying. One of the reasons why we probably cannot hit the reset button is because we are in the construct itself, and we are personally involved in our own experiences in there. And so that means in order to go out of the construct in this co-opted thing, we have to evolve out of it. And as we're going down these layers, what if we're not clearing out we're actually clearing out the layers? What if, because we're personally involved in our own experiences, what if we're simply learning to get out of our own way? Layer by layer.
Excellent.
Nice. Listen, we've got time. Well, we're out of time, but we've got Zimba who's also got her hand up, so I'm just going to unmute her for a moment. We've got a few minutes for you, Don.
Okay, hi y'all.
How you doing?
Great. I'll try to be real quick. In the 6th grade, I'm 58 years old. In the 6th grade, we had a wonderful teacher, Mrs. White, who taught us all how to meditate. And it infuriated my friend's older brother, who paid for transcendental meditation, and he didn't believe I knew what I was doing. And he asked me, well, what do you experience? I said, well, anything and everything. And it just blew his mind. Recently, listening to you guys and learning that, you know, abilities may be opening up to us, I've been looking into astral travel, I guess, and I had a couple of guided meditations that I had been listening to for a while. But the other night, I was kind of half up, half asleep, sitting up in bed, and my whole body, it seemed to come from my hip area, but my whole body just started vibrating. And I either went into a lucid dream, but in my mind, I thought, wow, I've just left my body. And I thought, well, I'm going to go check in on a friend of mine. And I have no idea where he lives in an outskirt town. But I did come up with an image of somebody standing and could describe his clothing. But I don't know if I was lucid dreaming or if that was astral projection, or this is all so new to me, and that was just such a new and exciting experience. But I just really would like to get some opinions of what I might have experienced. Thank you, guys.
Well, the first thing I would have done is ring your friend and see if there was where he was at the time you were doing it, and what was he wearing, and you know, any other.
Yeah, next time.
Next time. It sounds like you may well have left your body, because I think if at any point did you feel like you woke up?
Yeah, the vibration kind of, I might have been like dozing, but then my whole emanating from my hips, but yeah, I felt kind of I felt maybe not awake, but I felt aware. I felt awake in the dream. I guess is the only way I could describe it. But I also felt that I could direct myself anywhere I wanted to go.
Maybe they're one and the same anyway. Maybe we're just getting ourselves caught up with terminology. And does it matter?
Yeah, well, listen, that says a whole lot right there. You go ahead and close the show. I love listening to you guys, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Oh,
am I still there?
Yeah, you here?
Okay, so urinating out the negative energy and breathing in the good energy. My point was, in the public bathroom, it doesn't always smell very good. So when you're bringing in the clean energy, it's not always, I don't know if you remember that little joke.
I do.
Okay, good night.
Thank you. Well, thanks, guys. Got through 2 hours with a lot of help. Well, lots to walk away with, though. Thank you, everyone. I will see you all next week. Hopefully Dani will be better and she'll join us again. What day is it? So tomorrow I will see the LMH members for Collective Imagination. And just to mention, in the LMH members area, we have been doing plasma training with John Anderson. So the first 4 weeks of that are now available for purchase and download on lisamharrison.com, and the proceeds all go to John. There's over 8 hours of material, extras that aren't in the members area, and the proceeds go to John so he can afford to keep buying tools and stuff so that he can continue to teach. So if you're interested in learning any of the plasma tech, those first 4 episodes go over nanocoding, creating GANs, and making your own healing pen. So if you want to have a play with that, you can go and find it over at lisamharrison.com. And $20. So it's not a lot. So thank you. I will see everyone tomorrow, and have a good day, evening, whatever it is for you. Bye for now.